In this session, we are gonna see what can be done with an event rule and how we can define an event rule or a trigger rule. And in this case, what we are gonna do is we will automatically transition a parent when all of its children have reached a certain state. In this example, I have a user story that is currently in the status in dev, and it got two children, two change sets. The first one is already in the ready for QA status, the other one is still in the in dev status. The goal of the rule is when the second one gets transitions to the ready for QA, the user story will automatically get the status ready for QA too. So looking at our change set that is in dev, when we transition that one to ready for QA, the result would be that the change set, the second change set, is going to ready for QA. Since the first one is already in ready for QA and these are the only two children of the user story is going to get transitioned to the ready for QA status automatically by an event rule. To define an event-based rule, go to the admin menu, select the option rules. We get there the rules that are based on events, and the one that we are interested in is the pre-online rule for the event topics change status. Here we see groups of rules that we have defined for that event, and we are interested in a particular rule that says update the status of the user story to ready for, because we have multiple ready fors. We have ready for QA, ready for development, ready for deployment. In our example, we are talking about ready for QA once all the change sets are in this status. So the first thing that we are going to do is the topic category or the topic that we are currently transitioning, is that a change set? If not, well, this rule is not going to kick off because it's not what we are looking for. We will find out whether the change set is linked to a user story. If it's not linked to a user story, we don't have to transition automatically anything, so we will go out of the rule also. And the third test that we need here is to see whether the new status that the change set is going in is going to be ready for QA. If this is the case, at that time we will get the user story ID. That's the MID, that's the master ID, that's the ID that is used to store the user story in the database. And once we have that ID, we will get all the remaining change sets that are related to that user story. Because it's well possible that we have transitioned a change set to the ready for QA status, but that there are still other change sets in other statuses, so that the user story can't be transitioned, or it's not the time yet to transition the user story to the ready for QA state. And the result of that search, of that get, is that we're going to store it in a return key user story topics. If this has, and in this user story topics, we are going to check if there are any change set that are not in the ready for QA state. Because if there are, we can't transition automatically the user story. There are still change set in a lower level, in a lower stage, and we can't do the transitioning automatically at that time. We have to wait for the last one to get to the ready for QA state before we can transition the user story. The result in the user story topics, if that variable user story topics is that array is not empty, this means that we have at that time change sets that are not in the ready for QA state, so we won't do anything. But if it is empty, so we didn't get any change set in the status different from ready for QA, we will set the status of the user story to ready for QA. And that's how we automatically transition a parent when all of its children have reached a certain state.